Welcome back to The Doctor Is In. We are entering our 4th year of podcasting and looking back at our start. We started the podcast during the peak of the 2020 COVID quarantines, in an effort to continue to speak with our colleagues when we could no longer meet in person. Over the next few weeks, as we return to our beginnings, we encourage you to listen to our guests' most recent interviews after you hear their first, and see their growth and adaptation through these unprecedented times. Next up, we have our interview with Tom Buggia, originally recorded in April of 2020. Truly, thank you for growing with us.
Nadia?
Tom?
Hello?
Hello?
How are you today?
Oh my gosh,
How are
I'm
you
so
today?
good. How are you?
Wonderful. Got a little breather from the day-to-day, hustle and bustle.
I know, right? Are you enjoying it?
There's some high points and some low points, but I would say, yeah, I've never been much of a crowd person, so, and I'm in the smallest county or the lowest populated county in the state, so we don't have crowds here anyway, so it's not that much different where I'm at. Now, Seattle, we do have a condo in Seattle that we rented in February, just in time for this whole thing.
Oh my gosh. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, we thought it was a good thing till this happened, but now, I'm not going, Sheila and I, we're not going anywhere near Seattle till this thing's, cleared up. But, I did hear something yesterday on the news that Seattle's cases have started the downhill. There's less being reported than were. So it might be that we're over the hump in Seattle.
Wow. Well, what was that like to be in Washington, have a place that you rented in Seattle that you expected to probably spend time at, and it was sort of the epicenter of where this all began, or at least where we first started recognizing that COVID was coming into the country. Was it crazy in Washington? All the news and everything, all the conversation?
I think, in the beginning when we were there, because we were in Seattle, and I don't think many people were thinking too much, about it. We were, our condo was right there by Pike Place Market, and there were still crowds and all that. And then, it finally kind of clicked after enough news reports that, we might as well go over the other side of the state where there's nobody and just let this thing blow over, or at least see what happens. And that was, I don't know, God, it's been a month probably since I've been in Seattle.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. It's interesting.
But
you're the third person I've talked to that lives rurally, that lives in a rural area through all this.
Yep.
And so it's just sort of interesting, the differences in the conversations and how this is affecting people's day-to-day lives based, relative to whether they live in a city like Dallas or live in rural Washington or Pennsylvania or South Carolina. So, I guess I'm not surprised that it's not necessarily affecting you in terms of like quarantine, I guess.
Yeah, no, I wear gloves into the grocery store when I even go to the grocery store. We make one trip and get as much stuff as we can, and then hole up for a while. But I laid my crew off for 2 weeks, and told everybody to go home and take a break, stay home, be safe, and so for me, like the last couple of weeks has been. I'm in the greenhouse doing what I like to do, which I haven't been really able to do that in the last 4 or 5 years, just because there was more important stuff for me to be doing. But right now, there's really nothing else for me to do but keep the plants alive. And that part of it I'm enjoying. I'm in the greenhouse and doing what I like to do. So, from that standpoint, it's been fun for me, therapeutic, let's say.
Nice. I feel like we're kind of lucky in agriculture in general, that we're kind of lucky with the timing because it's spring. And so a lot of people have already planted. And so now it's just kind of watching the plants grow. There's not a lot of activity in terms of seeding or in terms of harvesting, that it's kind of in that in between? I mean, there's obviously always activity with agriculture and farming, but if there could have been a good time for agriculture, this seems to be it.
I agree. And for whatever reason, February was just a beautiful month weather-wise, over on the east side of the state. And I was so far ahead of the game as far as having pots out in the field, the irrigation and everything ready to go to plant. And I'm pretty much there. So I was lucky enough to have all that behind me, so I'm not sitting here stressing about, God, am I going to be able to get all this stuff done, and when does it stop? And right now, the way it stands, I could probably, I've got at least four licenses that I'm going to grow this year, and I could probably do it all of it by myself. Not the harvest, obviously, but certainly getting the plants in the ground and just making sure everything's watered and all that. Which I don't think is going to come to that, but my mind always goes to the worst place first.
Right. And when would your first harvest be? It's in the summer, right? Early summer?
Well, no, I will have a small light depth crop that I'm going to do some. So it'll be a seed crop or making some, doing some different genetic stuff, but that's minor thing. What I've learned at this point for me and what I'm doing here is I do one big crop through the summer, grow it as cheap as I can, harvest it as cheap as I can. And I've gotten fairly good at, packaging it and preserving it. And, that's the key for the market. Take COVID-19 out of the equation. It was a tough fight, at least in the marijuana world up to this point, but that's kind of the model I have now, is just grow as much as I can in the normal cycle when it's as cheap as can be done. Mother Nature's on my side generally, unless there's a windstorm or something, but grow as much as I can, and then don't spend any more money other than just packaging it up and preserving it, and then sell it throughout the season, which is exactly what I did last year. And I still have probably 4,000 to 5,000 pounds of product left that thankfully we are an essential service, as opposed to 6-7 years ago we were illegal.
Right.
But
that is amazing. What an interesting progression of the industry.
Yeah, really. As fast as it's moved, like I said, 6 years ago or pre whatever that was, the 2013, it was illegal as hell, and now all of a sudden, 7 years later, we're essential to the market. But if you wanted to try to keep all the people at home and not have any riots, I think you got to make sure that the alcohol and the marijuana are free flowing.
Yeah, right.
Just to keep. Otherwise, there's going to be more murders, more wives killing husbands and whatnot. Just being cooped up all the time. That
without an outlet. I know.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Right. Well, I
was talking to someone who lives in Pennsylvania, and she said that they have shut down liquor stores under this, which is causing people to do what? To drive to New York and to other nearby states to buy alcohol, which is exactly what we don't want to happen. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just common sense that, if everybody's sitting at home, give them something to do, or, you don't want a mutiny, that's for sure.
Do you think there's going to be more new users of cannabis during this crisis? Like, people are just going to be so bored. They're going to be like, hey, well, it's an essential service. I can get my hands on it. I'm done drinking. I'm so tired of building my beer gut. Maybe I'll try cannabis instead.
Well, I've excelled. I've got a black belt in beer guts right now myself. But I think, the answer would be yes, because, even when I'll end this with what I did the other day, but I mean, when you're not worried about going to work, you're not worried about drug testing, you're not doing anything, and your husband or girlfriend is doing, getting high and having fun, I think absolutely yes. And it was just a couple of days ago, it was Sunday, it's like, do I even have a reason to get up? The plants are watered. I really don't have to do anything out at the farm. And about 1 PM, I ate an edible, and God, what a great day I had.
Nice.
I really did have a fun day.
That's amazing.
But I truly believe that yes is the answer to that. Just because you don't have the responsibility. Well, why can't I get high today? I don't have to be to work for a month.
That's true.
So why wouldn't you? But unless you've got some real moral, feelings against it. But no, I think it'll probably be beneficial for the pot world.
Yeah. So I imagine then, I mean, if that is the scenario, then you're going to probably have no problem even selling the extra 5,000 pounds that you have in storage.
Oh no, we're moving it. It's going quick. No, I don't think I'll have any problem selling. I'm confident I won't have any problem selling. I'm hoping I have enough to supply through, September to the next crop. But, if in a perfect world, that's the way it works out is, I sell the last ounce and I'm, harvesting the next few tons. So, but, does it work out that way? Who knows? But,
is it really that tight? Like you're selling like that small quantity at the end and you just have it timed?
Well, when I say an ounce, I'm just talking about the last, but we do sell ounces. I do sell bulk. What I'm trying to do is build my retail market. And I've been doing that. I was doing that for the first couple of years. And the guy that I hired to, and then paid for 2.5 years. And I sent him to all the, the industry get-togethers and all that. And, he was my retail sales guy. Well, 2 years ago, he said, well, hey, I'm going to start my own business. And, so what he did is he went out and took my Rolodex and started slinging pot for other farms. And so I kind of had to start from scratch myself. So I won't ever put anybody in that position again without some kind of non-compete or something like that. But it actually worked out really well because, I guess it was 2018, I really didn't have the contacts for the retail market. And so what I did is I just gripped and stripped everything, which we had about 7,000 pounds of gripped and stripped that I had a 10-man crew, or actually a 10-gal crew. Hispanic laborers are the hardest working people that I know. But in 14 days, they gripped and stripped 14,000 pounds, and I sold it for $100 a pound cheap for oil. And normally, if you try to trim 7,000 pounds, I don't know what that would cost, but it's a hell of a lot more than 14 days with 10 people. But it worked out really well. And then, so now in 19, I started to, get back into the market. And at this point with the market in Washington, the bulk of the dreamers are gone. The guys that, I grow good pot and that's why I'm going to be successful. So there's so many people that have left, and I actually, I'm acquiring more licenses. I just bought more land. I'm just, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm doubling down for sure. I just bought 110 acres of light industrial, and I got equipment out there today. And, the funny thing is all these contractors that are busier than hell, now all of a sudden I'm the only guy they can work for. And so all of a sudden I got lots of equipment out there and shit going. So, that's been a benefit for me for sure.
Wow.
So
that is so interesting.
But as far as the market, like I said, there's the industry is consolidating, I guess is the easiest way to put it, in my opinion. But the people that didn't have the financial horsepower to stick it out, because it got ugly there, where pot was, ounces of trimmed marijuana were $15 going to the store, and the store was selling them for $45. Yeah. And it's like, this is ridiculous. And that's where, when my sales guy left, I thought, it can't be that much worse. Just grind it up and make it, turn it all into oil and get what we get, which turned out to be about $700,000. So for a season, a 90-day or 120-day cycle, for one farm to generate $700,000, I mean, I'll bet the 160 acres next to me doesn't do that.
Wow.
With conventional farming, potatoes or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, things are getting actually better in my opinion. Like I said, there's fewer flakes left, and just the people that are reputable, honorable people have their reputation, and most of the scammers are less than honest. Most of those guys are gone. There's still some out there, but at this point, after 5 years, everybody knows who you are and how you operate.
Right.
It really is a small community. If you're out there screwing people, guess what? Everybody's going to know about it. Or on the other side, if you're out there helping and working, and that's the model I, look at is, I want to be shoulder to shoulder, and I'll help you, you help me, and it's, and we're all on the same page, but not everybody looks at stuff that way. So.
Exactly. So have you, without the gluttony of all the flakes and the dreamers, I guess, and with more consolidation, have prices for you improved in terms of sales?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, prices are going up. Now ounces are $30, double.
Wow.
And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I've got my crew's been packaging ounces and whatnot. I'm still selling 100, 200, 300 pounds a year, in bulk to other guys that don't grow, but they've developed a little processing niche where they buy 200-300 pounds bulk for 90 cents a gram and package it up into ounces or half ounces, and they've got their stores they work with. They make something on that. So I'm trying to just make sure I've got my finger in every potential market that I can monetize the stuff. Because, this year I should have 7 licenses that I operate or, oversee. And in order to move all that product, I believe I need every, option I can have to monetize it.
Did you see any change in the market after the vape crisis that we had last year?
Yeah, I did. There were some people that got hit pretty hard by it. Certainly the guys that had the flavored, whatever they are, the cartridges, yeah. But the oil thing's just still hot as a firecracker right now, in my opinion, from what I know. I don't look at a lot of data, but what I'm going by is, I've sold all my trim. I actually in November pretty much sold the bulk of all my trim, and it was, that was all going to oil. And I still have oil people now calling me for trim, and I don't have any trim. All I really have is flour, and some of it's pretty rough trimmed, and I'm trying to work out, we're trying to figure out a number where they can take the rough trimmed pot and, blast that and make oil. But we got to find a number because I put extra energy into trim it, and the flour markets come up. And so, they need to find something to make that oil. And the oil, one thing I did see is the oil market from 5 years ago has been in an upward trajectory for the whole time, where flour has pretty much stayed constant. Hasn't really, yeah, it's a flat line. Certainly for Washington State, I have seen, some graphs of that, but the oil market, and that's what really convinced me, a year and a half ago, was like, shit, the oil is the one that's on fire. And with the harvest cost of, being able to go out there, cut them down, hang them up, dry them, grip them, strip them, and the labor cost was next to nothing compared to trying to trim everything. I might as well just sell everything for oil. And I know of at least 5 processors that I deal with, and that's just a fraction of what's in the state. But these 5, out of those 5, each one of them does, 8,000 to 10,000 pounds of biomass a month.
Wow.
So, these guys are doing 40, 50, and that's just the guys that I deal with. And there's some other big ones out there that, I have no idea what they do. But when I think about that, it's like, shit, I can't grow enough.
And they're all,
So,
I mean, and they're all within the state. I mean, you are just serving the
yes.
state, which
Yep. Just Washington.
yeah, which
Yep.
I just think is so fascinating under this current crisis and some of the debates and sort of conversations or threats. I'm not sure what they are about quarantining states and limiting interstate commerce. And to me, that just like rings a bell in my head that the cannabis industry has been set up like that from the beginning to be self-sustaining within a state, within its borders. And it just makes me curious if that, for one, makes the cannabis industry more resilient than some other industries if they are restricted by interstate commerce. And what lessons can the cannabis industry relay to others who might be struggling under a threatened quarantine like that? I mean, it's fascinating to me.
Right. Well, one thing that I see is if people want pot, they're going to get it. Just like the alcohol. If I got to drive to New York from, whatever state that was where they
Yep.
shut
From
the alcohol.
Pennsylvania.
If I want my alcohol, I'm going to go get my alcohol. And
That's right.
and you think about the prohibition. If people want it, they want it, and we're probably not the smartest bunch out there, but we'll go risk COVID-19 for a case of wine or whatever your choice of drink is. But
Yep.
and I see pot the same way. I mean, pot's been dealing with that. Pre legalization, yeah, pre-legalization. That's what it was. Just I mean, and I'm sure that the black market is thriving.
Oh, I'm sure. Even with curbside pickup at dispensaries that are considered essential services, even that, people would probably rather go to someone they know or to someone local who's doing it in their garden rather than risking even that curbside pickup and all the hands that have touched it, or even just it's another excuse to I don't know, bypass the legal system.
Right. Well, and you got your taxes and you got all that. And, from everything, I get all these emails. I'm constantly, reading stuff that comes in, and I know there's a bottleneck in California with the testing. But everything I read is the black market is alive and well in California, which, people would rather go get the pot they got from the guy, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and it's probably better and less shit to deal with.
Right, exactly. And in some ways, it also goes back to this whole idea of knowing your farmer, right? Is knowing the person that actually grew it. And we're having almost this opposite conversation in food production where people want to know their farmer. They want to know where their kale comes from or their carrots come from or their eggs come from, right? They want to know a local farmer. They want to know where it came from. And with cannabis, we've made a disconnection between knowing where your marijuana is coming from.
Right. Well, I think 5 years ago the farmer did not want to meet his clientele just because it was illegal. But today that's a different thing for sure. And then if you're in the city like New York City or something like that, the chances of knowing a farmer are pretty freaking slim.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway.
So because of where you live, I mean, you mentioned even earlier that, the potato farmers nearby are probably not faring as well as you. I mean, do you talk to any of the farmers nearby? I remember when we visited you that there's all sorts of farms out there. How are they doing? Are they doing okay through this right now?
I think they're doing fine. I think everybody's doing just fine. I mean, we really had the ag industry has not been hit. They're the one outfit that can keep moving. Now, I'm probably next week driving to Corning, California, right in your neck of the woods, almost in your neck of the woods, to get a water truck. And, and I don't know, and I just was down there a week ago to get this truck that I'm sitting in. But I'm going to get a water truck, and nobody got the memo that I could tell, a week ago driving down to Corning, got the memo that, hey, you're supposed to stay home. Traffic was as heavy as it's ever been. And I didn't know if I was going to get down there. There's no hotel rooms. There's no food. There, the gas stations are closed. I'm stuck here. It wasn't like that at all. You couldn't even tell the difference. And so, once again, I'm going to run down.
Wow.
Yeah,
that might not be your experience next week. I'll be curious to know how it goes next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see a problem really. And now if I was to say I'm just on a pleasure trip, should I even be asked by anybody that maybe I got a problem there, but because I am an essential business, that marijuana needs this water truck. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to buy this ag water truck to get up there to grow more pot to keep people pacified during this whole COVID thing. Would be my appeal to whoever was whoever was interrogating me for why I'm out of state right now.
I hope whoever that is responds with, "Thank you for your service."
Yeah, me too. If it's California Highway Patrol, I don't think it's going to be that pleasant, but anyway.
Well, I don't know that they're pulling over anyone yet. I haven't heard of any stories. My sister lives near San Jose, and she drove into San Francisco this weekend because she's been shelter in place for over 2 weeks now, and her high school is closed till May 1st and probably till next year, to be perfectly honest. And so she's going a little crazy. And so she's like, I got to see the ocean. I just am so curious about San Francisco. So she drove in and she sent us a video, and it's a ghost town. And it's so,
right.
Well, weird, and she's like, it's so cool on one hand, like how empty it is. And I can just drive around without like any traffic or pedestrians or whatever. She's like, but there's also nowhere to go. And she's like, I want to see the ocean and like see the beach, but they won't allow you to stop. So she literally is just doing a drive-by of the ocean.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what it's going to look like in 90 days from now. A lot of those restaurants are going to be gone.
Oh, man. I know.
It's I've been trying to figure out what it's going to look like here in 90 days or 6 months from now, and geez, I do know the restaurants who have a pretty small margin to live and work by. If they miss 1 month, maybe they can survive. But if they miss 3 or 4 months, they're probably toast.
Yeah. Yeah. And the stimulus package definitely helps, but it's just for a month, basically, to help people pay their bills and pay their employees. But what happens May 1st? People are really in trouble. I was lucky enough. My people I laid off or sent home, I'm paying them. They're paid. They're home for the next 2 weeks. Now, how long can I do that? I can do it for a while, but God, I sure don't want to do it all summer. But what I'm kind of hoping is, I did see that headline yesterday that Seattle now is on the downturn of cases, new cases coming in. And I'm hoping, because we were the epicenter in the beginning, I'm hoping that everybody's behind us. In another 2 weeks, New York will start be doing that. And then you guys in LA or, California will start. Hopefully that's what happens. And maybe the seasonality of, warmer weather, if that, which nobody really knows what's going to close this thing down, but hopefully some heat, and which frankly I'm looking forward to, but to get things back on track, because I know if we keep things shut down for 90 days, it will be a whole different world out there when we come back. Absolutely.
Except for.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Except
for the people that are in places like where I'm at, where so I'm in really, I believe, the poorest county in the state. And, I don't think it's going to really affect a lot of people here like it will people in New York City and all of that. I mean, people here are living no different than they did, 2 months ago. They may not go see a concert now because they can't, but or, go to some event, some trade show or something like that. But, the people that are, kind of on the lower end, I don't think much changes for them other than if they get sick.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm
So,
definitely worried about that and the whole healthcare system and people losing
right.
their health care, their insurance benefits if they can't be employed by their employers. But it is interesting the comment you just made that it might not affect people sort of on the lower end, because maybe they didn't have a lot of disposable income in the first place and weren't maybe as wasteful as some of the rest of us. And I was talking to a
Yep.
friend of mine yesterday who was saying that that's one of her hopes and predictions, is that people will learn to waste less. And we were saying how both of us, we have these leftovers in the fridge, and now rather than just letting them rot because we
Yeah.
ate something else, that we are eating every bite of our leftovers and nothing is getting
I,
thrown away.
I'm following that same model. And, the one thing I can tell you about the farm, I had a pump go out and normally, okay, throw it in the waste basket and go buy another one. And well, I can't really go buy one, like Ace, True Value, all those guys are closed. And so, not only is it a trip to for me, it's 30 minutes to a, Home Depot or something like that. But, I've been doing a lot more MacGyvering, and thankfully, in the past when something broke, I tossed the broken one off to the side, go get a new one. Well, now I got all these parts and pieces, and I've actually been making a lot of that stuff work and going through my old shit and saying, well, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is trash. That's going to the dump. So I've been doing a lot of that, just kind of thinning out all the debris, I don't want to say debris, but the stuff that usable and not usable. Let's put it that way.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
That's actually one of my favorite attributes of farmers in general, is their MacGyver skills and ability to make things work that nobody else can.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what you pretty much have to be. I mean, that's what the crescent wrench, is universal on everything. Or,
I thought it was the hammer, but I guess the crescent wrench.
Well, that too, hammer, crescent wrench, duct tape, those are the main tools in my toolbox.
And you're good to go, right?
Yep. Yeah. So, but that's one thing that I kind of recognize for myself, and I'm even now thinking, when I am going to have more of an inventory, and because I don't know what's going to happen in the future, and frankly, I want to be able to have a supply of stuff rather than running to the store to get this, that, or the other. I just buy 3 or 4 of them now and put them in the warehouse there, and it's my own warehouse, and then I've got my stuff for the farm. But this one thing I have learned is the true value of toilet paper in the face of a crisis. That's one thing I'm going to stock up on and always be stocked up on. And I still, to this day, when you walk into Safeway or Walmart, there is no toilet paper.
I know, we can't find any either. Luckily, we were pretty stocked up before the crisis hit. As sort of the rumblings started, we got a new bit, like, roll of like the jumbo size rolls or whatever. And then my mom started getting nervous, and she's like, you should start stocking up on all this stuff, and I was like, whatever, like, this is going to blow over. And, I'm like walking through the paper aisle or whatever. And I was like, I'm just going to grab one, another one. Cause you never know. Like, it's not like we're not going to use it. I mean, even if we don't need it right now, we'll still use it, later. And I'm so glad I did, because we have enough for a little while, because we don't see it on the shelves either. I can't believe it. I mean, it's like, it's so weird because people are so obsessed about toilet paper, but then they're going to be eating less, maybe, if they're not going to the grocery store and eating out. So it's like, okay, so you have less going in. Theoretically, you should have less going out, and you should need less toilet paper, but I don't know.
Right. Well, it'd be a different story also if, COVID-19, the first sign is if you've got diarrhea, that's a good sign that you've got it, and
That's
that everybody
true.
that gets it's going to have time. Okay, well, let's go, back the truck up. Let's go get some toilet paper. But that's not the case. And so I guess that's maybe one of those luxuries that people think about that they don't want to be without,
Maybe.
So.
What an interesting luxury to have. Luckily though it is spring, so there are some new leaves on the trees. So if we,
There
push
you
comes
go.
to shove.
There you go. Hey, when you're out camping, you got to do what you got to do.
That's exactly
But
right.
anyway,
You said something
yeah,
earlier that kind of that brought up a question I haven't even thought of, which is, with the stimulus package and the available funding for like small business loans and everything. Is the cannabis industry eligible for the stimulus package?
I have no idea. You would think so because we've been designated essential, but I don't know, and I'm not even going to ask. I'm not even looking at it. I was lucky enough to have.
You, but I feel like I'm gonna need to remember that question for somebody else because I'm super curious. Huh? And
right.
maybe if you don't need it because we are an essential service and the demand is there and we can continue supplying it, then everything is okay. But I'm just thinking since it's coming from the federal government, we might not be eligible, or certain businesses might not be.
Right. Well, I would think that they are, but we have employees that have the same needs as any other, business. But for me personally, I don't need it. And I'll take care of my employees as long as I can. I don't think it's going to go that far, but I would rather leave that money for the people that really need it, because I'm confident there's going to be a lot of people that need it. My niece, who's 30 years old, is a waitress, or was a waitress in Seattle. And probably 3 weeks ago or a month ago, or, when the whole thing really hit and all the restaurants closed down, that, like on one day there was a shutdown of all the restaurants other than takeout. And she's a waitress, so that, doesn't help her any. And that night she went to apply online for unemployment. Well, the state's unemployment website was down because it got so many people hitting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of people in the cities that are going to need some kind of help. And my niece is, and she's a smoker and stuff, and her husband are, but they're dead set, and they were just about, before all the stuff happened, they were just about to move over here and start working at the farm. And they still are, but not for a little bit here, not until this COVID thing's over. But there's plenty of people out there.
I kind of feel the same way as you, Tom, is that our business is doing well, both in cannabis and in food. People who, it's so interesting. We have a client in Delaware who just built a sort of a pilot farm, a vertical farm to learn how to grow the leafy greens that they want to grow at their very massive scale. And they have 4 weeks of orders from their local grocery store because they're the only ones who can supply the lettuce that the grocery store needs because they can't get it from some other places. So it's so interesting that both cannabis and food obviously is essential. Food is essential, but that our clients at least are a little bit sheltered from this, or maybe we'll do better because of this unexpectedly.
I think it's better, truly. Certainly for the pot, I think it's going to be better just because nobody's working. Once again, I would never take an edible at 1 PM. I just don't have time to do that.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, it's like I'm getting up. And it's like, I even slept into one day last week till 9:10, which I haven't done that since high school. I'm 62 years old. So this has been kind of a break, vacation, and to some degree, which obviously there's some dire consequences for a lot of people, a lot of deaths and whatnot. But for the pot, I think anybody that's sitting around without the virus and, twiddling their thumbs, wondering what to do, let's smoke some pot. Right. At least keep our minds active here, coming up with harebrained ideas, but
Exactly. Yeah, stretch that creative brain. That's what we keep hearing. Like, this is a great time to be creative. Well, smoke a little pot, and that, will get the wheels turning.
there you go.
That's right.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 of these harebrained ideas don't work, but that 10th one, sometimes you get, a winner out of there. And that, for me, it truly does help me think outside of the box.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's really, I believe it does, but I come up with ideas that a lot of other people don't or haven't had, and I'd like to hang that on the marijuana.
Well, I think
that I do.
Us less, not even necessarily less inhibited, but less judgmental of ourselves and our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I feel like we are our own worst critics, and that smoking a little bit of pot kind of lowers that criticism of our self-thoughts and allows something to come out that we wouldn't normally.
It's easy. It's easy to say, oh, well, I was stoned. That's why it sounds so stupid. That was a dumb idea. I come up with dumb ideas when I'm not stoned too, but at least when I'm stoned, I can blame it on the pot.
There you go.
So
that's funny. Well, it sounds like things are going pretty good for you. I'm glad to catch up. I love the excuse that this has sort of given me to talk to some friends that I haven't talked to for a while. So, thank you for having this conversation with me.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to do it. And hopefully you and Marcia, everything's well with you guys, and we get through this stuff and we get back on track. Who knows what it's going to look like, 6 months from now, but
I know
it will be, we'll be fine.
Well, tell Sheila that if she needs somewhere to send her cookies, that we are always willing to help out.
I will make sure there's a batch heading your way, because, the one thing she's been doing, she's cooped up and she's a baker, so she's been baking, and I got to make sure that they're not there for me to eat, because I will, especially when I go ahead and eat edibles, I turn into a machine. I can just make food disappear. No problem. The thing I got to be careful is we're low on toilet paper. So, that's it. I shouldn't even went there, but I'll make sure.
You had to.
I'll make sure you guys get some cookies, and hey, it was I appreciate you even thinking of me for your thing here. So
absolutely. Well, take care of yourself. Say hi to Sheila for us. And stay in touch.
Will do. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Bye-bye. You bet. Bye.